back on The Real News, therealnewsradio.com. We are joined by our congressional representative here in the 5th District of North Carolina, Mrs. Virginia Fox. Now, Virginia, we were just discussing oil futures and inflation. Let's go into a little about inflation, the imminent inflationary cycle we're probably going to see here very shortly, given that we've just printed up trillions of dollars in currency to try to stimulate the economy.
Well, again, I was on the floor yesterday, and I don't have my notes with me, but we passed a bill to fund the legislative branch of government. That was a 6% increase in spending, and the point I made and the point a lot of other Republicans made is that this is crazy. When people are cutting back and spending less, our federal government continues to just spend more and more and more. And I had a whole list of all of the things that we had done this year. We're now, our deficit is now $2 trillion. The President Obama wants to blame it on President Bush. He keeps blaming things on President Bush. The Congress blames things on President Bush. They just can't stop doing that. But this is the fault of the Democrats in Congress because they keep spending. But we had the bailout last year. We had the, and let me just talk about this year. We had the stimulus. The second half of the bailout, if I can remember all the numbers, the stimulus, when you add the debt in, is $1 trillion. The second half of the bailout was $350 billion. I can't remember now all the numbers, but it just adds up to a huge amount of money, and you can't keep doing that. I heard somebody say, for us to be able to take care of the debt we've created, our economy would have to be growing at 6% and generating over $1 trillion a year in GDP, and that just isn't going to be possible. We just can't handle what we've done. It's going to get worse instead of better, which is going to create the inflation.
And now, of course, President Obama is proposing this massive health care bill, which, of course, is going to add to that significantly. What is your opinion on that?
Oh, my goodness. This is a case where if the American people buy this, you know, I've got acres and acres of swampland in New Mexico I'd like to sell them, but the news reports this week talked about the Senate plan having a $1.6 trillion price tag in the next 10 years. But I learned later that was only the first title of the Senate plan. That wasn't even the entire plan. We do not need a government takeover of our health care system in the United States. I had to refute again Democrat member on the floor yesterday morning. She got up and said 47 million Americans don't have health insurance. Now, most of the time they say don't have health care. We know nobody in this country is without health care. They go to the hospital, they go to a doctor, and they get health care. We don't deny health care to people. Now, there are some people, around 7 million people, who don't have health insurance. But let me debunk the 47 million. The statistics I had were from nonpartisan, nonprofit think tank, and they break down. In fact, they keep saying 47 million, but it dropped in 2007 to 45 million. And, all right, 12 to 20 million are illegal aliens. They are not Americans. They always use the term Americans. They aren't Americans. Then there are about, and I may not have my numbers exactly right. Let me try to add them up and see. Let's just use the low figure of 12 million aliens, okay? I think it's about 10 million people who qualify for Medicaid and Medicare, but they choose not to participate in it. About another 10 million are people who have incomes over $84,000, and they choose not to purchase health insurance. But our government's going to make them do that. And I had a big argument on the radio one day this week with somebody who said, well, they don't have health insurance. Why don't we make them? I said, well, this is not the Soviet Union. This is not a socialistic country. We don't make people do things. And we make people have car insurance because if you're driving down the highway and you hit somebody else, they have to pay for it if you don't have insurance. But when you've got no health insurance and you're paying for your own health care, then there's no reason to force you to buy insurance. So let's see, that's 32 million. I got to get it to 40. I think there's about another 8 million who are just without health insurance for a part of the year. It isn't that they're completely without it. And that brings it down to about 7 million who are low income and can't afford health insurance. We could easily take care of those people without turning upside down our entire health care system and turning it over to the government, which we know is going to make it bankrupt. Medicare is bankrupt. It is going to go completely busted in 7 years. 7 years it's going to be busted. The president stands up and says, Medicare is broken, it's busted, let's put more people on Medicare. Now, does that make any sense? I don't know. People who listen to that, who don't understand that that's a crazy thing to say, aren't listening or have lost all manners of logic. They don't. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I agree with you, Ms. Fox, and we've got about 4 minutes left in this segment, and I wanted to ask you, it was reported this past week, Department of Defense training manual describes protest as low-level terrorism, and you know we take part in the Tea Party events and several different protests in the Fed, and each week on this broadcast we report on more military and police practice drills. Next month, according to FEMA's own website, there's a mock terrorism drill in several states using troops from Canada, Mexico, the UK, and Australia. Should we be concerned as Americans about foreign troops on American soil and more training exercises, and our own government referring to those of us that want the Constitution restored and stand for freedom being the new terrorist?
Well, I haven't seen that information. Can you send me that? Where the schedule shows the DOD is going to do these things? I haven't seen that.
The ACLU is actually is fighting this with the Department of Defense right now, as far as their training manual referring to those that take part in any of these protests. I will send you all the information, and it's on the FEMA.gov website as far as the mock terrorism drills taking place. I believe it's Alabama, Louisiana. It's 5 states with foreign troops on American soil. I will be happy to send that to you. Well, we've got just a couple of minutes left. We'll give you the opportunity.
Let me just answer. I certainly am concerned if we're training our own army to deal with peaceful protests in this country. I would be certainly very concerned about that. But go ahead.
We certainly do appreciate that. We've got just a couple minutes left. I'd like to turn it to you. Anything you'd like to add? And we certainly do appreciate you joining us each month, Ms. Fox.
Well, I just want to say to people that I am quite concerned with the direction this Congress is going right now. We have serious problems, I think, with this cap and tax bill that they want to get passed, and also the health care plan. I think it's very clear that the president is pushing these things through as fast as he possibly can, because he doesn't want people to read what's in the bills, know what's there, and understand the implication. For example, the stimulus bill had a piece in it that will ration health care. There is no doubt in my mind that that is the case, but this health care takeover is the most serious thing that we're dealing with, because this is going to put bureaucrats in charge of making life and death decisions. They will deny, I think, life-saving care to people, and it'll be bureaucrats deciding. You know, if you're in your 70s or your 80s and you need something, if you need to be on dialysis, they may say, no, you're too old, you're not worth saving. That's not what this country's about. But these people believe they have the right to make those decisions.
We're coming up on a break. We want to thank you again for joining us, Ms. Fox, and we look forward
to be with you.